Hey, hey, good morning. Good morning. It's 2:48 a.m. I'm on my way to the gym right now. As I was getting dressed this morning, I had to have reflected back on about 5 or 6 different very short lessons that had been taught to me at different stages and different phases and different periods of my life. And I when I was reflecting, it was like I was doing a little mini series on what can I use to help me be the best me that I could be today. And there was one thing in particular that came to mind that I had learned from a coach, and he said that when something comes against you and something is uh, either holding you back, or there's something that you know if you did it will propel you forward, he says put it on trial. If it's something that you should not be doing, then put it on trial. Not in a physical sense, but in a mental sense, hold a mock trial. And at the end, there's a jury after they've heard the side of the defense and after they've heard the side of the plaintiff. Then they'll be able to make a decision on whether or not this thing that's either holding you back or you need to use to push you forward should be found guilty of not doing what it's supposed to do. Simply put, we have all these different problems, and we consistently put up with the problem because for one reason or another, we have not given enough reason to say, hey, listen, you no longer belong in my life. And I'll say a big point for me was, I think, pornography, because one, it took away from what happened with my marriage, because it kind of perverses the situation where you're used to being alone, watching other people interact, and you're not performing in a traditional standard, if that makes sense. And I had to bring it on trial, and not only for that factor, but how it was consuming time. And so there was a couple charges that I brought against it, and it couldn't stand up against the charges brought against it. That doesn't say that it's not still an issue or something that I struggle with, because when you're in prison and you're locked away, you yearn for that touch, but then the touch becomes like a perverse intimacy between you and something that's not real. So now I'm thinking this morning, and that was the primary thing in my mind, that I am constantly like battling away. And you have to create this you have to create this mock trial. You have to create this situation where it can't stand up. Because as much as I believe that any habit created and formed over 21 days will take, I also believe that habit to be true for anything bad that you don't want. I'm the biggest, I'm the number one person to have a problem with saying, oh man, I don't want this and I don't want that. Little did I know is that when I say something I didn't want, I got more of that versus saying what I did want and bringing that into my life and bringing that into fruition. Well, the same thing with the 21-day rule. And the 21-day rule simply is just a reprogramming of the brain. Simply put, I mean, if you want to try to bypass biblical, and you want to be more analytical to get things to switch over, then yeah, 21 days you can start to reconfigure the neurons inside the brain that will allow everything to start clicking in a different direction. If you want to be spiritual, then all you have to say is that nothing has control over you. Nothing has dominion over you. And then you have to kind of want. You have to want to change. See, one thing I've learned on my short stay on this planet, because I even believe that I'm turning 40 this year, I haven't been here that long. I haven't been here that long. And for the short time that I have been here, what I've learned is that you don't know who might be sent to you in your life to help you get to where you need to go. But I'll speak specifically for my community, for the black community, is we have a pride problem. We have a pride issue. We see somebody over there doing exactly what it is that we want, but instead of going over there, shaking their hand, congratulating them, and not expecting anything from them, we'll sit back and we'll talk about them and we'll degrade them and we'll hate on them, and little did you know that person has already walked in the footsteps that you're trying to get to, and could probably drop some seed on you that might grow into the promise of what it is that you're looking for. And sometimes I'm guilty of that. Sometimes I have to stop myself and I have to congratulate somebody. I can't sit there and feel pity, or if it was supposed to be me, then I would have been there already. Maybe it's not my time. That's okay. Have patience. Have endurance. Have some staying power. The reason why I decided not to run short distances fast is because there's nothing about life that's short and fast. That's why I started picking my running pace up to run in a couple miles to see how fast I can run in a slow amount of time, if that makes sense. Everything about my running emulates life. It's a long game. But most people have a short mentality. They want it now. And it's a good chance you don't have it now because you're just not ready. I'm okay with the fact that I don't have millions right now, because I'm willing to go through the process. I'm willing to be weeded through it, and I'm willing to be vetted out. I'm willing to make sure that I'm ready for what it is that's coming my way, and I'm preparing myself. I'm being faithful with what I have now. And it's funny because for all the different people I've been around in my life, and I have to say the majority of the people that ever taught me something were in prison. People who couldn't get out, but they needed their word to get out, and they knew that they could plant their word in me, and I would go to the world and I would let it out. I reflect back on everything that's been said to me. Even as much as my father embedded in my brain, don't be a follower, be a leader. He just never gave me the second part of that. Only follow people who you know are going where you want to go. Only lead the willing. Don't save everybody. Don't save nobody. Because maybe it's just not their time to pick up and go. So you'll be surprised the moment you stop sitting there hating, being disrespectful, thinking you got it figured out, assuming the other person doesn't know anything. And when you see them and you know that they're about that life and you know they're living in that life that you want, instead of criticizing them, you might just walk up and say, "Hey, I seen that. Good job. Good job." Because those are going to be the people that can plant a seed back in you. But if you want it fast, you don't want to work, you don't want to put in the effort, you want to have a quitting mentality, fine too. The coolest saying I ever heard was, "What you eat don't make me shit." Can't take a horse to water and make them drink. But I'll tell you right here, right now, that there's a lot of valuable tools floating around you. And because you're stuck in your own world, on your own island, with your own thoughts, your own pride, that you will miss the opportunities that are standing right there. They're in your house, they're in your office, they're at your church, they're in the book you read. Most of all, everything you need is between your two ears. And all you have to simply do is shut down the negative voices that are speaking to you. And you got to step to the plate and you got to start making some serious decisions about how you're going to live each and every day. Because if you put more emphasis in what you're going to eat versus how you're going to spend this day, then you need to do some serious reconsidering about where your priorities lay at. Because time is irreplaceable. Time is irreplaceable. Be a good steward to others, but don't waste your time. There's too many tools running around to come up short on what it is that you want out of life. But you have to make that decision. You have to make that choice. You have to stand up for what it is that you want, because there's nobody else on this planet that's going to do it for you. There's nobody on this planet that can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself because you want it bad enough. And there is no shortcuts. You have to go through the process so that you can handle the prize.